All right, and we're rolling, and it is the 26th of January, 2021. And I want to go over some ways that you can look at your chart or any chart, you know, natal, progressed, whatever it is. You're just going to look at a chart and just kind of start to decipher it. But before that, just because we've been doing so much on current events and this really specific astrology that we're all living through right now, I'm going to go ahead and record this because we have a real interesting, we've had an interesting month. It's been an interesting year, but you know, astrologically, but I want to show you what we're coming into this full moon. And without any further ado, I'm going to do that. I'm going to share my screen with you. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know why it always makes it smaller. It's always weird. Certain things happen whenever I share things. It's like it's aggravating. But anyway, don't mind me bitching. All right. If you cannot see any of my screens at any time, always interrupt and tell me that. So what I got here, these windows quit. It's so aggravating. Okay. All right. So hopefully you can see this. And I don't know why this one is just going to move this window away. So don't mind that. It'll disappear in a minute. All right. It just bugs me. I gotta wait for it to move out of the way. All right, here we go. So this is Thursday. And I don't know why that's still going on. All right, so hopefully I'm gonna just scroll this up. And we'll start seeing this really, really tight bundle we got going on here. And this is just really bugging me. I'm sorry, these windows, this one is coming up. I hope you can't see it, but you probably can. I think it's disappearing now. Okay. All right, so we've got this going on, and I set this for 4 in the morning because it's early in that day. I wanted to just see all of this stuff that's going on. And I'm just stalling because this is aggravating me. Okay, here it is. So, okay, look down in the bottom part of this chart here. Oops, do I have to, hold on. Let me go here, admit. Okay. Okay, I guess we were waiting now. So we're going to look at this chart for this coming Thursday. This is the full moon, and I didn't look at the exact time of the full moon, but I set this chart for 4 in the morning. And what we have been going through is looking at this tight bundle chart or wedge. And then whenever we get a breakaway planet, in this case, it's the moon. It's the only one that really can right now because everything is just so tight. It's going to be months before that they move, the orbits move. But the moon would be the only one that would break away from the pack and make another structure, make another pattern. It would make the bucket or the fan pattern as it goes around the chart. So right here, it's making an opposition. So actually, the moon is moved into Cancer, and the next 2 days, two days, it will be moving through Cancer. So the moon will, before it even gets to Leo, it will be squaring Venus, you know, right near the end, right before it moves in here. It'll make an opposition. It'll oppose Venus and Pluto down here. If we look down in the bottom of the chart, you see in the second house, it's got Venus and Pluto right next to each other. And that day, later that day, they conjunct. So we have got an interesting day, and I'm just going to start with that because right before, you know, the moon moves into Leo, and I've got this set again for 4 in the morning on East Coast time, and we see that the moon is just 3 degrees. So it had just moved in early that morning. So right before that, or like Wednesday night, it's going to start to oppose, moon oppose Venus, moon oppose Venus and Pluto conjunct. So that's, just think about that. I mean, you got the moon emotions, and then we got Venus next to Pluto. So to me, Venus next to Pluto, I don't know if I've said this before, it's kind of like having to kiss your hairy uncle in his face goodbye when you're a little kid. It's like, go give your Uncle Fred a kiss, you know, and he's got dirty beard and food in it, and he hadn't shaved, and he looks gross. And he's like, I don't want to kiss him. Oh. So that's kind of like Pluto next to Venus next to Pluto to me. Although it could be, I'm just giving you one. There's many, many ways of that. That's just one. It also could be powerful or transformative, Venusian things transform our wants and needs, our money, money, capitalism, things hit, transform. And the moon there is gonna be a little bit, the moon is happy in Cancer, but then it's got to oppose that stuff. So it's kind of like the moon has got to witness you kissing the yucky uncle. It's like it gets grossed out too. Sorry. But anyway, it's kind of a funky combination. And then it quickly moves and starts to make squares. The first thing, oppositions, the first thing right after that, it makes another connection with is Saturn. It's like more of that kind of yucky energy. And then, okay, now not only does it have to kiss, does Venus have to kiss the Uncle Fred and his hairy beard? It's got to kiss Uncle Fred's wife, and she's got a hairy beard too, So, sorry, but I mean, I'm just kind of giving you a sour approach of this coming on, rather than making you think about all the meanings yet. I just want you just to see the tension of what we got going on with this. So then the moon starts to make aspects to first thing after that, it's got to go to deal with Saturn, and then it goes over the moon. That's when we actually get the full moon, is when it conjuncts, when it opposes the moon here, and it's pretty close at that time. So it won't be it'll be early in the day. And then right then, look at how close these two are too. So we've got the sun and Jupiter conjunct, sun at 8, Jupiter at 9, and it's barely, the sun is during that day, it's going to go right over Jupiter. So we got a lot going on that day. We've got Venus conjuncting Pluto. We've got the sun conjuncting Jupiter. And then we got both of those opposing the moon. The moon opposes all of that. Then later, finally, the moon moves off of that, which is interesting now. We'll go over it in more detail, but I just want you to see what this first thing happening. Then the moon, as it goes later, it takes 2.5 days to go through a sign. So a day plus later, maybe Friday or late Friday sometime, it will then meet up or oppose Mercury down here. So it will, keep going through Leo, and then it will oppose Mercury. So moon it's going to be battered starting, Wednesday. It's going to be opposed. And remember, oppositions and squares are not fun. They're not a real, they're useful sometimes, and sometimes, discipline and somebody yelling at you to straighten up is, useful. But this is very, 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 very tense. And, we called it on the 6th when we looked at all the tension and all those squares, and a little bit of that on the 6th, how volatile and crazy and misrepresented and effed up, and that whole incident. So this will be another one, but we got some big oppositions going on starting here. And then we have Mars down here and Uranus in Taurus, which will be squaring both of those. Okay, this is a T square. So it's like a T. So we got the opposition, and then we've got the bottom part of the T. So as the moon now is dealing with all this stuff, opposing, when it hits 6 and 10 degrees, it's going to square Uranus and then Mars. So just think about the order of it. Okay, so it's, it hits Saturn. It hits Saturn first at 4 degrees. After this stuff, but when it actually makes the squares, the oppositions and stuff in these fixed signs, when it actually moves into Leo. So it hits Saturn first, and then it will go hit, it opposes, I'll give you the astrobabble. The moon will oppose Saturn, and then it will square Uranus, and then it will oppose the moon and Jupiter, and then it will square Mars, and then it'll oppose Mercury. So bang, 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 boom, boom, boom. So look at here, it hits Uranus first, which is the sudden. something, and then we get the violent backlash or the action. I'm just going to say violent backlash because of all this tension. And Mars is not I mean, it's the warrior, but and it was just in its sign of Aries, but it was frustrated. So I think Mars is frustrated because it had to deal with, Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto and Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. So it's a little frustrated warrior. So now I think being in a fixed sign is going to make it a bit more determined. So, and it's going to get the surprise of stuff first, and then, it's like it's going to get knocked down, and then it's going to pick up its sword and just be like reacting, kind of an energy. But right before that, I mean, right on it, it's right there squaring the sun and squaring Jupiter. So we got the Sun and Jupiter conjunction, and we got the Mars squaring that. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's going to be an interesting day. So I'd lay low. I wouldn't. I mean, it's like, don't go on Facebook. Don't get any real confrontations. Try to put stuff off at least through that whole day. It's just, and just kind of watch. Just sit and watch, and it's going to be an interesting one. That's the big stuff of that day. That's the really big stuff of that day. And you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 planets over here in Uranus. I'm sorry, in Uranus. I'm looking up here in Aquarius. I'm thinking a ruler, and then we have 2 over here in Taurus, and then we've got the moon in Leo. So those are all those fixed signs. The only fixed sign we don't have is Scorpio, right now, because that's over on the other side. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, and we've been watching this configuration get tighter and tighter. And now it's pretty tight. See, it's going to get, I think we went over this the last time, a teeny bit tighter, other than the moon breaking away, but just this pack of planets before they really start moving out. So, and then this is really important in the world right now, because you can see how compressed and narrow and effed up things are. And people are seeing and being funneled and limited and going, what the heck did I do? What didn't I do? Oh man, this is like not what I thought. And it's going to get worse. See, these are going to get a little closer. Look at Venus again is going to go and conjunct Pluto, and then it's going to go over that and then join this pack. So, in February, we're going to get this lineup of planets here, and then the moon will come around, and we have that like 6-planet lineup there. But then Pluto will be the last, everybody will be out of Pluto's house. So Pluto will be like, oh, thank God, got them all out, all the relatives and everything, they're gone. Now I can just work on transformations and all the stuff behind the scene and get all the shit going. So, but that's still going to be in this next time until that lineup that is going to get a little tighter, and then a little bit more fixed. And then it's just, whoosh, then things will start to widen out. Won't widen out till late spring, summer. So yeah, we're in for a rough ride here. All right, so I just wanted to point that out because this is, we're living through some really, really interesting. I mean, it's all interesting. Every day is always interesting, but sometimes you get some things that are really interesting, and this is definitely one of them. So I wanted to point that out and show you the astrology, and it'll be interesting on the flip side when we go, yep, and it makes sense of what all that was. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing that, and let's go look at. Everybody good with this? Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. All right, so let's go look at, I think I'll start with this one. Is this my checklist? Yeah. Let me share this one. Okay, everybody can see it says chart reading checklist. So what I want you to notice when you look at a chart, you're going to pull out and all this astrobabble. You're still trying to get your head around it. So I kind of want to err on, you may not know the birth time at first. Okay, if we know the birth time, that's fantastic, but we're not going to go there for the moment. So the first thing I want to look at is just that person's sun sign, because if you don't know the birth time, at least you'll know the sun sign. So we're going to know that, and we go, oh, okay, and then note its quality and its element. I want you to start thinking quality, element. It kind of quizzes yourself, because I want you to be thinking the quality, because that's going to tell you the aspect. I want you to know, it's like Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign. Boom. I want you to be able to think Aries, cardinal. Taurus, fixed. Gemini, mutable. That is almost more important than the elements. I mean, the elements I think are kind of easy, but knowing those will tell you more of those angles. Anything that's in the same element is always going to be, trine. So, but this tells you, more of those other two, the squares and the oppositions. All right. So knowing the sun sign, then you kind of get a, a flavor of that person's inner nature, although they may not always show it. And we'll look at that in a minute. But you're going to note that. You can know, okay, that person's an Aries. That person's a Taurus. Okay, I got the basic flavor of their being, just that inner core. Now we're going to start piling up stuff on top of it. Then we're going to note where the moon's at and what quality and element that is. And then just make a little mental note. Is that getting along with the sun? Are they same, different? Just kind of note, okay, we got Aries moon and an Aries sun. Oh, okay. We're going to have a little bit more feisty or a little volatile here. Or what if we had Capricorn moon, Capricorn sun? Oh, we're going to, this, that wouldn't be the person to invite to be your wedding planner or something like that. Okay. All right. So then we're going to go like, what is the sign Mercury is in? And note its element and quality and element too. So the Mercury is going to tell you then now about the person's mind. The moon is their nature, their inner nature. So say, you've got this, maybe you have the Aries sun, and then maybe you've got that Aries sun is going to have maybe a Cancer moon. So you might go, that's going to mush that Aries out a little bit, right? All right, then you'll notice a little bit, where's their Mercury? Where's their mental? How do they think? And this one's always interesting to me because, it's all interesting, but you can have somebody that seems like such a go-getter, and then you see their Mercury is in a weaker area. Like, how would I say it? Well, it's going to be one way, Mercury is always going to be either the same sign as the sun or the sign on either side of it. So, whenever the sun, Mercury is going to be right over there. And that kind of gives you a little grouping of how that person thinks. So say I'm just going to go with Aries because it's easy. So an Aries sun, that person would either have an Aries Mercury or a Taurus Mercury or a Pisces Mercury. So, you start thinking about, how that is. Is that going to make that more, that little bundle with that person? Is it going to be with the sun, or is it going to be, different than the sun? All right, so that's interesting. And then we know where their Venus is. That's like what their likes are, where their security, where they feel secure, or they want money, or those kind of things, love, interest. What do they like on that level? All right, so those are the first ones, just those inner planets kind of give you a little taste. As you move out into the outer planets, that gets more generational, which then, then it makes aspects with other stuff. But this gives you just this little core of the person. All right, now we're going to kind of go, all right, I got a little taste of that, but let's check and see if we have an accurate birth time. And if we don't, then you got to chuck a certain amount of thing. Then you got to just know that's like, well, don't know the rising sign. Then I won't know the house placements. I won't know any hemispheres, where the heavy, if it's on top or the bottom, won't know none of that. But I will know the patterns. A bowl pattern is a bowl pattern. A locomotive is a locomotive, but we won't know how it is with the houses and the elements, how they play out in life for that person. Just by looking at a chart, we can rectify a lot of stuff and talk to them and kind of figure, well, yeah, I think your time was more like over here. And once you get to know somebody and kind of see some of these things, I'll show you how we can kind of rectify some charts to kind of hone in on, like, if somebody thinks they're born in the morning, we can hone in pretty close, All right, so if you don't have an accurate birth time, we're just going to throw out a whole bunch of stuff. So it's like, all right, we just can't go there, but we can go here, and we will. So I want to make it practical. All right, then we might want to tally up their planet sign and quality. And if we have the rising sign, that's can always be a little bit more significant on that. But we want to get a little flavor. It's like, is this person heavy water? They don't have any earth. Are they a lot of fire and no air, or are they balanced? That gives you just a little oversee of that. It's like, wow, they don't have any blah, blah. Okay. And that's interesting too, what's not there. All right, then we look at kind of like the basic shapes, some of those patterns we start to look at. It's like, are they all clumped together? Are they all spread out? We know if somebody's got a lot of stuff more clumped, they're going to be more focused, or focused in a certain area. If we got stuff all over the place, you know, we got interests all over the place. Maybe that person doesn't ever focus on stuff. The seesaw, you know, we got those seesaw patterns, you know, we got all these opposing things going on, and we got a lot of dynamics, maybe relationship stuff back and forth. Is there a grand square or a T square, you know, T square, or, you know, things opposing, like we're seeing now, you know, a T, and then when it comes around, we might have the actual cross. Do we have that? Do we have things like a bunch of trines? You know, what are we looking at? So we just kind of assess it. That's why I don't want your mind thinking too much of the sun in this, the moon in that, the this and that. You know, it's like it gets busy like that. We'll hone in on that, but I think this is better to kind of see this stuff. You know, we note a little bit, you know, those inner planets to kind of get our flavor, and we get their shape, and we just get some assessment without mucking yourself up with all of those other things, because it can get really mucky. And I'm trying to keep this simple and have some kind of a pragmatic way of assessing a chart. Okay, so basic shape. And then do we see any patterns jump out at us? You know, it's like, oh gosh, look at all those squares. Or there's no squares, no oppositions. You know, we got a real tight chart. We're gonna have like, look at that. Okay. You know, so that means we don't have any this, that, and the other. Okay. Then we'll look at planets conjunct and angle the sun or other inner planets. And I'll show you this a little bit more, but then we want to look if you have, excuse me, say two planets that are close together. And this doesn't matter. I mean, if you don't know their time, this still is fine. Because if you say have a planet sitting right next to their sun, that's going to flavor that person. We talked about conjunctions. You know, conjunction is something that everybody sees, but you don't. I don't know why everybody thinks I look like a unicorn. I mean, I just don't know why they call me that. You know, I'm trying to get here. I don't know why everybody, you know, everybody can see this but me. So that's a conjunction. You know, it's right next to you. You can't see it. So we want to note that. We want to note if anything is conjunct their sun, because that will definitely flavor their, you know, who they are. Like, what if they have the, say, the sun in Aries, and then what if they have Uranus right next to the sun? So we know that there's going to be some, you know, in their Aries. So we know that they're going to be maybe a jokester. There's going to be an element of surprise. There's going to be maybe loud surprises, you know, with that person. What if we had Venus conjunct the sun? Then we might be thinking, well, that person might be a good cook. They might be good looking, or they may be all about themselves. You know, they may be narcissistic, the self next to the sun, you know, so we got to get these little flavors of things. What if we had Mars right next to the sun? Mars conjunct the sun. You know, that person is going to be very Aryan. Like, even if the sun is not in Aries, if Mars is next to it, they're going to take on an Aries kind of persona. And we'll look at these a little bit deeper. Okay, doing good on time. So we're going to note any planets conjunct the sun or an angle. Now, if you don't have an accurate birth time, you can't do this one. But if you have an accurate birth time, it's interesting to note if you have any, like, say if you have anything right on the ascendant, either the end of the 12th house or the beginning of the first, that's really significant. You got stuff right on the ascendant, or right on the descendant. That would be on, you know, on the ascendant is about you. Like, you know, if your sun is right on your ascendant, it's going to be, you know, a lot of stuff's going to be about you in your life, or with that. If the sun stays on or other planets glommed onto the 7th house, it's going to be about your partners or your business partnerships, you know, your partnerships. If it's up at the top of the chart on the midheaven, it's going to be more of what you're doing in about, it's like your career, who you are out in public. And then on the underside, on the bottom, it's who you are in private. And that one, those can get kind of freaky. You know, you got some weird stuff on the bottom, you know, especially if you got some weird stuff, that's when you might be like, ooh, that's kind of weird underneath. Okay. And then note any degrees or aspects, you know, like if you go, gosh, this is 3 degrees and that's 3 degrees and that's 3 and wow, that's 3. You know, that person has a lot of stuff at 3 degrees, then you'll kind of look and see what they are. Oh, well, there's an opposition, and then we got a square, and then we got a trine, all, you know, at 3 degrees. Okay, so those are the kind of the first things that I want to give to looky-see at a chart. All right, now I think I can just go to another. Let me see if I can do this. I don't know if I can. Can you see this? It says people act like their rising sign, or do I have to stop and start again? If it's good, don't say anything. If you can't see it, tell me.
I can't see it.
All right.
I can't either.
All right. Yeah, it's like you got to stop and then I got to start again each screen, even though they're all in Word documents. All right. All right. You should see it now. People act like their rising sign.
Yes.
Okay. Yay. Okay. So people act like their rising sign. So again, if we don't have a rising sign, we got to ignore this one. But if you do, this is cool. So actually, we behave like our rising sign most of the time. Our rising sign shows our personal style, the way we approach the world. So the next time you're tempted to dismiss astrology because someone doesn't behave like their sun sign, try finding out the rising sign. You will instantly see correlation between their personality and their rising sign. It's your mask to the world. If we behave like our rising sign, then what's the point of our sun sign? Well, the sun sign characteristics represent your true inner self, your ego, your essence. The values of your sun sign are those that you consider true and worthwhile values, regardless of how you behave. Your sun sign symbolizes the things that you define as real and important. What was it? Groucho Marx said, like, I would never belong to a group that would have me as a member. You know, so you think his sun and rising were quite different there. Okay, so planets in conjunction to the sun. Okay, if a person doesn't have a planet in conjunction to the sun or an angle, then check for planet in conjunction. Did I say that right? To an angle, then check to see if it's to the sun. A planet in conjunction to the sun will color you with the qualities of the other planet, like I was talking about. We'll go through this a little bit more. For example, a Capricorn sun sign person with Mars in a tight conjunction with the sun will often behave more like a Martian or Aries than a Capricorn. The link above to the meaning of the planet in conjunction. Okay, anyway, it's just saying the same thing. All right, where I want to show you. Planets in conjunction to an angle. Okay, this is when we just talked about all four of those, you know, how it would influence that person with, it's all about them, it's all about the other person. It's all about me and what I do out there and everybody sees me, or it's what I do behind the scenes, you know, something in there. You know, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Something there would be important, or a few, if you got a few planets and stuff glommed over there. All right, the tighter the dynamic major aspect involving the one inner planet. If a person doesn't have anything tight, I mean close, then look for the tightest major aspect involving either the sun or the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, or possibly Jupiter and Saturn. But I'd like the closer ones first. That just tells you more. Okay, the aspect can be from one of these planets to any planet. You know, first we're looking for the sun, but then what if we got the moon or something there? So we're going to look at any, you know, combinations of these. So if the aspect is between an inner planet and an outer planet, it's even more obvious and noticeable in that person. Like the sun and Pluto. You know, that would be like a powerful person. They'd be like controlling, manipulative, you know, if you got like Pluto right next to the sun, something. Or driven, transformative, you know, I'm going to try to give you, you know, there's adjectives both ways of all that. So we're going to focus on the tightest major aspect, dynamic major aspect. The dynamic is the major challenging one, conjunction, square, or an opposition. The tightest one will be the aspect with the smallest orb. Okay, we know, okay, these two that are square are only 2 degrees apart or something, where maybe the something that's opposing is 6 degrees apart. They're close, but not as close as the square that's 2 degrees. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, let me know. All right, the tightest one will be the aspect with the smallest orb. That aspect will be the prominent influence in that person's life. It can explain why a person acts the way they do. So those tighter aspects are more prevalent. If you have a planet in your birth chart in conjunction to one of those angles, it can override a lot of things. you will identify very strongly with this planet. The planet's characteristics will likely overpower those of your sun sign. This is one more reason why people don't act like their sun sign. Give you an example on that. My husband is Cancer sun, and he's got his sun in the first house with Mars and Uranus conjunct it. So even though he's got a Cancer sun, it's in the first house, which makes him very Aries. And then he's got Mars in the first house next to the sun, which makes him more like Aries. And then he's got Uranus there, which is kind of sudden things. So that really colors and flavors that Cancer sun. It's not this mushy Cancer, male. It's got this Aryan influence and Martian background. He's a martial artist. He's done it his whole life. He's not afraid to get in people's face on those things. He can come up with sudden, unusual things. So those two planets are conjuncting his sun. Sometimes he's not aware of it. He'll put this real offensive t-shirt on and just like walk around. I'm like, are you aware, that you're wearing that? And we're going to go out in public. You might want to not wear that right now. There's that Mars and Uranus. I don't know, I'm thinking about it. You're like, look at him. So that could definitely color that Cancer sun. And it wouldn't be till I got to know him that I could actually see that, and then his rising sign is Gemini. So he's got books and stacks, and he's on the computer, and he's got this and that. So that really colors his chart way more than the sun. If I would have just known that, I wouldn't have said, no, he's not like that. No, not at all. So these things are like layers over that. Okay. We talked about the 4. Okay, the angles are highly sensitive points. When anything touches them, you feel it strongly. When a transiting planet, something's going on now, makes a conjunction to one of your angles, events related to the angles are inevitable. Oh my God, I remember when Pluto went across my midheaven. It totally transformed a lot of my career and place in the world, who I thought I was. Pluto. Woo. Okay, for example, Saturn or Venus transit to your midheaven will undoubtedly affect your public image or your career. We may or may not notice transits to our natal planets, but we always take notice of the transit conjunct of one of the angles. Yeah. In your birth chart, when a planet is in conjunction, which is next to each other, remember conjunction is right next to each other, same thing, to any one of the angles, it will color your whole personality. So I told you my husband, he's got, his Mars, is conjunct sun, and it's close to his rising sign too. Okay, you'll behave to a large extent with the characteristics of that planet. So he takes on that Martian sign, well, that Mars, because I told you there. So those characteristics will be more publicly evident than those of your sun sign. If you've ever noticed a person that acts absolutely nothing like their sun sign, that may be the reason. That person may very well have a planet in a conjunction to an angle, and this would overpower their sun sign's qualities. So notice that when you're looking at charts, And I think it's good to try to get, as many people around you that their times and your location, and see if you can get, and especially people that know their times. So if you got grandma and Uncle Fred and, your brother and his 2 kids, and get them all done. Charts are nothing hard. You can run them. I can run them. There's free stuff. There's, to do charts just to get the wheel. So you have those to see. I think it's important. You got some study things, to start piling up, and friends and relatives are easy to do. Okay. It's not that the sun sign disappears, nor that the sun sign is invalid. Rather, the added influence of the planet conjunct to an angle is so strong that it just ends up more pronounced than the sun sign. Okay, here we go. I like this one. It's like a chocolate covered banana. The banana is like the sun sign. Now take the banana and dip the whole thing in chocolate. The dipping in chocolate is like the planet, which is in conjunction to an angle. See, the banana is still a banana underneath, but now the chocolate is what we see. If you touch the banana, you will not get banana on you, you'll get chocolate on you. When the banana looks in the mirror, it sees chocolate. So the sun sign would still define the core needs of the individual. A person with a planet in conjunction to an angle would still have the basic needs of their sun sign, but they would act out like the planet which conjuncts that angle. If the planet making a conjunction to your angle is Mars, we call you a Martian or Martian type, Mars type. If it's Venus, we call you a Venusian or Venus type. If it's the sun, we call you a show off. No, I'm just kidding. Below are some common characteristics of the different planet types. Note, it's true that anyone can have any of the following characteristics from time to time, but please note that people with that planet conjunct to their angle will be more strongly embody those characteristics, and they'll do so most of the time rather than just occasionally. So sun type people, solar type people, or sun type people are warm. And again, these are, you know, the sun is conjuncting one of those angles, or so these type of people are warm, generous, vivacious, full of life, pleasant, good teachers, confident, and creative on good days. On bad days, sun types can be egotistical, strong-willed, arrogant, bossy, and self-centered. Moon type people, lunar people or moon type people are adaptable, sensitive, understanding, perceptive, receptive, intuitive, caring, and nurturing on good days. On bad days, moon types can be very moody, inconsistent, changeable, overly emotional, melodramatic, and feel sorry for themselves. Remember, this is where it's on the angle how it would manifest. Okay, if it's, you know, if it's the sun on the ascendant, that will influence that person's personality more. If it's the sun is on their midheaven, that will manifest more as how they present themselves out in the world. If it's on the descendant, on the 7th house cusp, it's more about how they are in their partnerships. Okay, so that's where these are flavoring those areas. Mercury type people. So it's like if you have Mercury on one of these angles. These people are thinkers, communicators, masters of versatility, masters of expression, quick-witted, intelligent, clever, persuasive, effervescent, energetic, brilliant, and have a sharp, quick mind on good days. On bad days, Mercury types can be restless, high-strung, anxious, critical, sarcastic, argumentative, deceitful, tricksters, swindlers, sly, and have a nervous tick. Venus type people. The Venus type are affectionate, graceful, charming, tactful, diplomatic, friendly, attractive, have sex appeal on good days. On bad days, they can be pliant, bending too easily, taking the easy way out, self-indulgent, lazy, jealous, envious, lustful, over-flirtatious, and unfaithful. Mars type people. They turn ideas into action. They have a healthy dose of assertiveness, vitality, energy, heated passion, and ambition on good days. On bad days, they're prone to anger, harshness, destructive violence, impulsive behavior, combativeness, and every kind of cruelty. So think about this. This is the easy one. If we have Mars near the ascendant, it will be more evident in their personality. I mean, in their outward expression, they're going to be more outspoken. They're going to be more, opinionated. You know, stuff is right out there. If it's Mars is over on the descendant, they may be more aggressive or outspoken or something with their partner. You know, maybe they're not so much outward in life, but they be maybe subtly more with their partner. You know, it's taken on a different area. Or if it's underneath, it's on the bottom, they may be more that way at home. You never see it. Nobody knows. You didn't know he beat his wife or something like that. If it was out on the top, everybody knows he beats his wife. I'm just being funny on that one. But I mean, it's like, you know, that aggressive or that outward action, it's known. Down there, it's not known. Same type of action, but depending on where it's at. Jupiter types. Benevolent, kind, charitable, wise, moral, spiritual, philosophical, and have an urge for self-improvement on good days. On bad days, they can be conceited, self-righteous, excessive, overindulgent, squandering, exaggerated, superficial, preachy, and bigoted. However, even on bad days, they learn that when they're wrong, they always land on their feet. Saturn type people are organized, disciplined, responsible, orderly, have a strong understanding of organized systems, and have a strong sense of duty on good days. On bad days, they can be selfish, cold, morose, depressed, and pessimistic. Uranus type people are original, unique, different, shocking, creative, geniuses, mad scientists, versatile, and independent on good days. On bad days, they can be rebellious, eccentric, deviant, and abnormal. Those are good adjectives for this coming full moon. On all days, Uranian types demand freedom to march to their own drumbeat. Note that the rest of the planets orbit like spinning tops or like a spinning basketball, but Uranus is the only one that orbits on its side like a rolling ball. Neptune types are idealistic, abstract, imaginative, impressionable, sensitive, inspiring, compassionate, receptive, serving, and spiritual healers on good days. They're masters of taking the intangible and abstract and making them real. Whether the intangible abstract is art, music, dance, film, math, poetry, or computer code, they give it form and make it real so that it inspires others. On bad days, they're prone to vague, elusive, cloudy, unreal, confusion, delusional, and get lost in a foggy world of fantasy and dreams and escape reality through various methods. And the Pluto type are transformational, transcendent, regenerative, deep, mysterious, psychologists and healers on good days. On bad days, they're prone to recklessness, turning things upside down, mentally obsessing, obsessive desires, compulsion, and emotional repression. Sometimes they're suffering, tormented souls. All right, so those planets color where they fall in the chart. All right, let's get one more screen. Checklist, transits, rising signs. Oh, okay. Let me look at this one. Let's see. We'll look at this a little bit, and I know we've done some videos on this, but I want to run through it because I got it kind of a concise here. Let's just look at these rising signs a little bit. I'm not going to read everything all the way through, but let's just pick up some of these. So the Aries rising, we've got quick-tempered, aggressive, pioneering, self-centered, headstrong. They don't like, they have a dislike for restraint. They don't like to be told what to do. They need to learn diplomacy and tact. This is the person that farts in the elevator. Yeah, combative. They get bored easily with routine. Taurus rising. Okay, they're slow to change. They're stable. They're quiet. They're non-aggressive, stubborn, loyal, affectionate, passive. But they could also be. They don't want to be pushed or driven. They could be possessive. They may want to build things. They like to work with their hands. Practical. They're very practical. They could be jealous or possessive. Gemini rising. They tend to be friendly, communicative, flexible, clever, witty, because it's right there. And especially if there's Mercury close, they're going to be more clever, witty. They can also be high strung, temperamental, because you got all that Gemini energy can just get, because of the twins, right? So they have a strong need to communicate. They could be a jack of all trades or have a lot of stuff, irons in the fire, breadth for things. Cancer rising tends to be less vital than average, more sympathetic, compassionate, passive, receptive. Because they're passive in nurturing to others, they neglect themselves. So I think that might tend to be what makes them less vital. Changeable, they're psychic, they're sentimental, but they're tenacious, timid, they could be manipulative, sensitive, moody. Great worry. They go through life in a curious sideways motion, never simply going straight forward, just kind of, sideways. It can hurt feelings, very, very hurt feelings. Cancer rising, definitely careful, especially if you're Aries or have, fire stuff. Or Scorpio, you say something that you wouldn't think that way, but you do. It's like, oh my God, I mortified that person. Oops, sorry. Security. It's a different kind of security than a Taurus security. They like to be emotionally secure, so more so than physical things secure. They can be possessive too. Leo rising tend to be generous, proud, emotional, dramatic, extroverted, egotistical, courageous, self-confident, showy, wanting to shine, having a big, big plans, big things. They also could have their pride hurt, because they're out loud, they're on stage, and you go, oh, your breath is bad. They're like, oh my God, terrible. They like the kingly, queenly role. So anything like that's going to demoralize them. Their dignity, they're be trampled on here is going to be not good for them. Their vitality and spirit is strong, except when their heart's broken. They need for love, feel appreciated. But don't we all? But some more than others. They're the ham. They like to be the center of attention and do things to get attention. You can be stubborn in a sunny kind of way. I like that sentence there. Your roar is worse than your bite. Oh. And then also, okay, Virgo risings, practical, discriminating, fastidious, exacting, attentive to detail, methodical. It's like, enough. Could be critical though, but thoughtful at the same time. Gaining knowledge is important to those people. Sometimes others aren't just good enough because you got high standards because you're so exacting. Sometimes that can make relationships go sour because you're fault finding. You don't mean to, you're just, well, for a fat girl, you don't sweat much. It's like, that's not a nice thing to say. She's trying to lose weight, kind of thing. Pessimism, being too self-critical, are also false there. Too much worry can lead to health problems, because they're trying to get everything exact. Mind Liberalizing, wanting to be balanced things, charming, refined, attractive. These people usually are pretty or nice looking. Artistic, musically inclined, harmonious, don't want to make waves. Don't want to make waves. You're apt to try too hard to please others, compromise your own principles, but yet you could be self-centered too, because of the Libra's writing. Oh, I have to look this my way, be pretty, but my makeup and all stuff. You like looking at all sides of things before you make up your mind. You like to compare things and say, well, no, you're gonna weigh things this way. You also tend to attract whatever you need without too much effort on your part. Scorpio rising. These people tend to be a little bit more mysterious, secretive, deep, maybe withdrawn. Maybe they don't say stuff right away. They think a little bit. They're regenerative, maybe a little bit hard to understand, willful, stubborn in thought, self-controlled except for maybe passions. What else here? Spiritual. They still waters run deep, they said. Tend to be, I don't want to say always a silent type. It just, that depends on the person, but just maybe they're not so vocal like the Leo rising would be. Maybe they're gonna be like, I gotta think about this a little bit. Where Leo's like, oh, I'll take it. I'm gonna go over there. Okay. Determination, yeah. And then, a resentment, possessiveness, jealousy. Could be interested in, I guess, 8th house type stuff. Occult, death, sex, healing. All right, Sag rising tends to be very hopeful, idealistic, enthusiastic, aspiring. And then when I would say like religious or agnostic, sometimes it's like preachy, but in a way like, well, the sermon of St. Paul was blah, 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 St. Paul. sort of like it says it, they say it like it's supposed to. They could also be risk-taking, breezy, outgoing, extroverted. They're usually fun. They're usually fun type people. Sag rising could also, be physically active. They could be a little dogmatic, sometimes prejudiced, but yet they have great aspirations, interested in other things, other cultures. They may like to shoot for the stars or wallow with the animals. They like, things like the outdoors, gambling, adventure. Maybe that would be the best way to kind of have is like adventuresome. So they're more upbeat, happy, out there kind of people. You're not going to be like there. Restless, sometimes on the move, looking for greener pastures. Sometimes don't slow down to see where you really are, where you're around it. You're just like, oh, no, next, okay. Ideas are very important. You like working with the big picture and dislike little details. Okay, Capricorn. Capricorn risings tend to be sensitive, timid, business-like. I think that's my big one. Practical, down to earth, duty conscious, responsible. If you're gonna have a babysitter for your children, I would want them to be a Capricorn rising. You may have had trouble communicating in early life maybe your determination is achieving your goals. You have great ambition. You don't settle until you've reached your goals or the great heights you've set out for yourself. Money, position, and power are important. This person's responsible. The reserve is that often is that they sometimes maybe be seen that they're cold or cool. They may, because of that, they're thinking, they're being responsible. They're not going to be frivolous and like, oh yeah, well, it's totally different. They're like, I'm going to be responsible. You're going to be a peer older. I'm going to be austere. Aquarius rising. These people tend to be friendly yet detached, impersonal but yet a humanitarian, sociable, intellectual, freedom-loving but yet rebellious and independent and unusual. Altruistic, brotherhood, working for the common good. Sometimes you forget yourself and your needs for the sake of strangers. You think be original, inventive, eccentric, a little bohemian. Uncertainty or sudden impulses. You tend to be also very intuitive, possessing a good mind, but there's also a certain level of detachment. You cannot stand possessiveness. You need plenty of freedom. Altruistic, worldly, could be a little cold or selfish or cautious as well, because it's more kind of out there. It's like, well, I'll tell you how to do it. I'm not going to do it with you or for you, kind of a thing. All right, Pisces will do it for you. Pisces rising tend to be sensitive, compassionate, and empathic, but weak-willed, long-suffering, daydreamy, procrastinating, plastic, impressionable, impractical, psychic, sentimental, romantic, idealistic, affectionate, easygoing, lazy, not concerned with the practical day-to-day affairs of life, more absent-minded, daydreamy, maybe involved in music, dance, drugs, could have a slight lonesomeness, maybe. Psychic, down to earth, you're very sensitive to the conditions of your surroundings, and you can be like a psychic sponge. You're very likable, but you need to learn how to be more practical and down to earth so you can ground that. All right, so these are just a few parts of the rising signs, which is definitely going to color your sun. So just wanted to give you a little bit more on taking some of those in context with some of those other things that we're talking about. So if anybody's got questions, put them in, but just, those things, and I got to find out, I can get you guys those, I'll send you those, I'll email those to you, those Word documents. There we go. So looking at the chart, just getting a few references of looking at it, trying not to get mucked up in all the this and the that, and this is conjunct that. It's like that's all kind of later. I find if you just get those other things out, then it's Then you've gotten that first stuff out of your head. Then you focused on what's really necessary. Then you'll go, oh, okay, Capricorn, yeah, that's that. And there's a lot of stuff there. So that's going to be a bit like this. And there's not any of that. So it's just a kind of a way that just makes it make a little more sense when you look at the astrobabble. All right. So hope that helps, and look forward to a really interesting week. Get some charts, look at some people's charts, look at as many as you can. You can even just look on some, I like, again, it's hard to look at celebrities because we don't really know them. You get the outside, but family people, you can know that person. You say, yeah, their mind, they can't think. They're, and I can see it. Their mind is in Pisces there. Yeah, they're not a deep thinker. They're just like space case. So, whatever. I'm just giving you some things. So, or they're really intuitive. They don't like to, they're bad at math, but they can just intuit like, crazy. So get some charts, put stuff together, and have fun. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.